into a sex strike, they're voting Bernie Sanders, Sean. Any one of us could fall victim to a sex strike, okay? We have to take this threat seriously and pay very close attention. As I said, sex strikes have been successfully used throughout history in ancient Greece. In Aristophanes' comedy Lysistrata, the heroine leads a successful sex strike, forcing the men of Athens and Sparta to abandon the Peloponnesian War. In 2003, a sex strike in Liberia actually ended a 14-year civil war and led to the election of Africa's first female head of state. In 2006, a sex strike in Colombia caused the city of Paria's murder rate to decline by 27%. Girlfriends of gang members held a strike of crossed legs until their partners gave up violence. Again in Colombia, a sex strike was able to make the Colombian Army of Engineers undertake a massive infrastructure upgrade to the highway system. In 2009, Kenyan women slapped their partners with a week-long sex ban, which resulted in national unity government. In 2011, in the Philippines, a sex strike on the Mindanao Island put an end to fighting between villages that dated back to the early 1970s. Sex strikes have not always been successful. They failed in Italy and Japan, but we can't take that risk. The stakes are just too high. Now we've reached the tipping point. Bette Midler has joined the sex strike. Tweeting this: I hope women of Georgia stop having sex with men until these indignities are overturned. Joining us now with reaction are Fox Nation host Abby Hornacek and Fox News 24/7 headlines reporter Carly Shimkus. Carly, just because sex strikes can end wars, because they can be good, they can also be really mean.
Well, first of all, I am very impressed with your history and breadth of knowledge, including pronouncing words like Lysistrata. So I'm very impressed with that.
So sex strikes are my thing. I know the deep history there.
So Alyssa Milano was saying that women can't risk having sex unless they are fully committed to the idea of having a baby. You know who else says that?
Who?
The Catholic Church.
Ooh.
So she has gone so far left that she has almost completed a full circle and is now agreeing with people on the religious right. But the best reaction has come from fellow progressives. Some have accused her of being anti-woman. Others are angry that her sex strike excludes trans women who identify or are still biologically men. So she has had to apologize.
I did not even consider that in the sex strike reportage.
Alyssa Milano
Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Keep up with all the rules that woke society says that we should live by.
Well, here's where we get into the danger zone, because if this thing is successful, I mean, you could have the Republicans lose the Senate. If certain women hold out for that long, men might just switch parties if the sex strike goes that long.
Here's the thing. I mean, don't men do this to women all the time? I mean, they go on strike when they leave the toilet seat up or when they put their sweaty bodies on the couch.
Is that a strike?
I don't want to be in a
That's
relationship.
like strike 3.
Right. There's 3 of them. That's
Right.
gross behavior.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a relationship where, hopefully, if you are having sex, it's enjoyable for the woman as well. So I don't want to be in a relationship where you have to barter with someone, right?
So you're saying men could then reverse this and throw a sex strike back at women? How do you think that would work?
Then there will be no babies and thus no abortion.
Exactly. I
The
mean,
birth rate's already plummeting in America.
You know, I want to
That's
talk
gonna
about
help.
who this sex strike is really affecting, because Patricia Arquette, I disagree with what she said. People who are progressive enough to actually do this probably are only going on dates with people who agree with them politically.
Yeah, they're not dating Republicans.
Right. So, I mean, this sex strike really would only affect pro-choice men.
Right. It's like a civil war.
Yeah.
They don't even realize they're hurting their own kind.
Exactly.
So I think Ellie Radachowski, her name is, very famous model. Emily. You know, we all know her on a first-name basis. She's very upset with the abortion bill down in Alabama, and she just went totally nude to protest it. Now, we're doing the right or wrong segment, Abby. Is it right or is it wrong when women just get totally naked to protest something?
I mean, I wouldn't do it. I respect my body, and they're saying they respect their bodies so that they can be out in public naked and showing off everything that God gave them. Personally, I would not do that.
But isn't it just a stunt?
Separate.
Isn't it really a an excuse for her to get naked
She
and
wasn't
get
totally naked.
attention?
She had a flower.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Factually accurate.
Okay, so almost completely naked. I mean, do you think that that is an effective use of the protest movement?
I mean, if you follow her on Instagram, something tells me you do follow her on Instagram.
I do not.
Lies.
I do not.
She's beautiful. She's beautiful. The post was she posts herself with no clothes on, very little clothes all the time. The post was pretty serious, and it was something that a lot of pro-choice folks.
Yes, we're not trying to trivialize what's going on down in Alabama. We're just focusing on the protest movement. That's what we do here.
The picture is very much.
It's what we do here.
Everything.
All right.
Yeah, everything.
All right, ladies. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I think spying did occur. But the question is whether it was adequately predicated. And I'm not suggesting it wasn't adequately predicated, but I need to explore that.
Attorney General Bill Barr making good on his word, appointing top federal prosecutor John Durham to dig into the origins of the Russia collusion hoax and to determine if spying on the Trump campaign was politically motivated. This is totally boomeranged on the deep state, and the main players are starting to turn against each other now that the heat has turned up. The Obama State Department blaming the FBI, Brennan blaming Comey, and Comey and Rosenstein are apparently trading blows. Watch this.
I think people like that, like Rod Rosenstein, who are people of accomplishment, but not real sterling character, strong character.
Now the former director seems to be acting as a partisan pundit, selling books, earning speaking fees while speculating about the strength of my character.
Here with reaction, the host of Life, Liberty, and
Levin.
the and the author of the upcoming book,
Again.
Freedom of
With him is the same one?
Mark Levin, and we're going to get to the book in a second. But Mark, this reminds me of, when you're outside in the backyard and you pull a rock up and all the little bugs start scurrying around and looking for cover and start fighting each other. This is what's happening.
Comey really is a reprobate, though. I mean, when it comes to the worst of the worst, he's the worst of the worst. You remember when he was fired by the president? Remember the Democrats wanted him fired until Trump actually fired him. He said, it's the president. He can do whatever he wants. Now we know he leaked, and he was a coward when he leaked. He leaked to a law professor because he didn't want to get caught, but he got caught. All this going on at the FBI was taking place when he was director of the FBI. He's fighting with his former deputy director of the FBI. He says these outrageous things about the president of the United States. He's a real reprobate. And really, it goes back to President Obama. Obama with Comey, Obama with Brennan, Obama with Clapper, the Three Stooges of intelligence and law enforcement. The disaster. I was chief of staff to an attorney general. We had serious people in these positions. And they never would leave their positions, retire, and then go on cable TV or anywhere else and start attacking, the opposition party. You never heard from them again. Maybe they'd write a book. Maybe they'd join a think tank. These guys go over to MSNBC and CNN and these phony seminars or wherever they're going on and on. I mean, Jim Comey, seriously? The Russians were interfering with our election. Jim Comey was the director of the FBI. What the hell did they do about it? As far as I know, nothing effective, that's for sure.
Now, so usually conservatives get their hopes up when we think things are turning around. That's happened many times. It's always the case where, this is just about to happen and it doesn't. Or, Hillary's about to get indicted and it doesn't happen. Is this going to be one of those times again where you appoint a prosecutor, Durham, great reputation, but it turns out no one gets punished?
I never get my hopes up. I just plow ahead, and that's what we ought to do. I don't know this prosecutor in Connecticut. Everybody says he's great. I never heard of him before yesterday. Back in 1961, there was a gentleman by the name of Daniel Borstein. He became the head of the Library of Congress, and he wrote a book. And he used to call these things pseudo-events. So the president viscerally is right. And he says, when you look at the media, it's still the pseudo-events. Collusion for 2 years was a pseudo-event. Obstruction, so-called built from is another pseudo-event. 700 prosecutors, former prosecutors, write a letter. There's tens of thousands of former prosecutors. So these are all liberals who hate Trump. Another pseudo-event. Some guy writes an op-ed in the New York Times, anonymous. Pseudo-event. And we spend days and weeks talking about non-news, and then it's filled with propaganda where they look, we're connecting the dots of pseudo events, and now we're talking about all these subpoenas and constitutional crisis, more pseudo phony events.
Yeah, and the real events like the border crisis they don't cover. Look at this book I have here, Mark Levin, Unfreedom of the Press. Now,
it's beautiful.
I mean, I cannot wait to dig my teeth into this thing. This thing's coming out May 21st, Tuesday.
Correct.
I don't know. Jim Acosta's got a book out. He says it's a dangerous time to tell the truth in America. I don't know. Acosta, Levin, how's it going to play out on the New York Times list?
Well, first of all, I didn't know Jim Acosta could read, let alone write, but that's okay. He's in my book, too, because he is a complete
Shut that
fraud.
fucking door if you keep going in and out. I'm telling you right now.
Activities at the White House are intended to provide
in and out, in and out.
Well, time, just 12 o'clock night or whatever.
He raised a very good
We need to
point.
anyway. I've been doing a
Freedom
little
of
bit.
the press about. We have
I
a
get back
media,
up in the morning and up and back up.
and then we have
He
free
doesn't
press
even have
and
that
a
access
constitution.
all that long.
They're two different things, right? Yeah.
No, you
That
don't.
which is undermining the free press is the modern mass media. And they're undermining the free press in several ways. And this is very, very important. Number one, they've decided to throw in one political party. You know, back in the 1800s, we had a party press. Media would side with one party or another. Now they side with one party. We know this from surveys and polls that go back decades. Ideologically, they are progressive. There's simply no question about it. Again, we know from surveys and polls that they are liberal for the most part. What else do we know? Now we know that they've turned the corner. They're not interested in pursuing objective news. They say they will, and if you criticize them, they immediately say, oh, you're attacking freedom of the press.
Right.
They are social activists. That's what they've become. You can't see a dime's worth of difference between most newsrooms in this country and most journalists in this country and the Democrat Party, which is why they're so comfortable bringing Schiff on and Nadler on. They all sound alike. They all act alike. Now, Jesse, this isn't new, but it's gotten much worse. In 1942, there was a report by the media about the media. By the way, the media today is not circumspect. You'd never see a report by the media about the media today. And one of the things they said back then was the greatest danger and fear should be the mixture of news with opinion. You know, we at Fox, we try to separate the two. Right. You're not a news guy. I'm not a news guy. We know who the news guys are and who the other people are, and that's great. You go over to CNN and you look at Don Lemon. Don Lemon is still characterized as a newsman.
Yeah.
Chris Plum was characterized as a newsman. These are not newsmen.
And that's why people don't trust the media, because if they're going to lie about something as obvious as that, what else are they lying about? All right, here's the book, Unfreedom of the Press, May 21st. Go ahead and grab it. There he is, Mark Levin. And Mark, when I have my big best-selling book out, I expect to be on the radio show, okay?
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Damn, still burning.
Last week, as we launched our investigative
We
series,
heard this to a movie or something.
we heard from
Yeah,
survivors
this ain't no repeat.
horrible abuses they've suffered. And as we delve deeper into a specific issue, how do people get trapped in this abusive trade? We'll hear from one of the
How do you know? I mean, we're going down the list.
Well, it just seems like it is to me. I don't know. Maybe it ain't. I know I've seen that guy on there 3
A lot
times.
of people would
I
purchase me out of the meat store. Sometimes I would have to have sex with them in the meat store.
Edie Rhea is a survivor. Her teenage years were largely spent being sold for sex by her mother's boyfriend.
Every day from 10 till I was 17.
Like many others, Edie's story began with abuse at home.
I would go to school. That was my safe zone.
Edie now works with other sex trafficking survivors in the Tampa Bay area safe home that houses up to 6 women.
Get up.
He loved me and told me
come on.
that I was his little girl and that he would be with me through anything. Then it went into him kissing me. And
Don't you go outside.
then
Max,
sexually
you stay right here. Get in here now.
For one girl being sold every day
You stay in here for a while.
and make $250,000 to $300,000 tax free for a trafficker.
Kevin Malone, a former general manager for baseball's Los Angeles Dodgers, became a sex trafficking victim's advocate. He was called into that
You
line
dare go
when
outside.
he witnessed a child being trafficked overseas.
You have 2, 3, 4, 5
Maxwell?
girls
You stay right here.
Vulnerable underage teens are often targets of traffickers who manipulate their victims, gain their trust, and force them into a life they didn't ask for.
I think part of the problem
Get up here, Max. Hey, what did I tell you?
We have blind eyes to this.
I was in a room with 15 men passing me around the room at 15 years old, raping me every which way you could imagine.
Brooke Bello runs a Florida-based anti-trafficking organization. Like the people
I
for
told
whom
you,
she
stay right
advocates,
here.
she too survived
You
being
got to reward
trafficked.
him.
And I remember
You
staring
ain't got a
at
little
the
bit of pieces
ceiling.
stuff to reward.
I hate stuff.
Come here, bud.
It was a stucco. If I
Here you go.
see stucco, I
Good
just
boy.
like cringe. The
That's a
first
good boy
man
for
that
listening.
purchased me,
There you go.
I thought, are you the guy that's gonna,
Good
like,
boy for listening.
can't you
There
see
you
I'm
go.
just a kid, don't
Want
you?
that?
I couldn't
You
even
want
find the
that?
words.
It's good.
Bello knows firsthand how easy it is for runaway teens to be trapped
little
into
kid
a
is.
life of sex abuse.
Here, I bet
It
you
was
did.
like I wasn't even there anymore. And that was my life for a couple of years.
Essentially, you have this guy who's been trained in how to manipulate younger
You don't want
kids.
that either?
Children
Oh,
who
you are
frequently
pushing
run
it.
away or have previously experienced sexual abuse are especially vulnerable targets for traffickers.
They're looking for the kids who didn't have a stable home environment, and he will groom her for up to 6 to 9 months to a year, acting as her boyfriend. And so for her, she falls in love with him because he's the first guy to ever tell her that she's beautiful or that he loves her. But at a certain point in time, he will flip a switch and he will tell her, you now work for me.
They're smart about what they do, and they know what to look for, and those things are people who have been abused in the past.
I remember looking at myself in the
Getting up there
bathroom
and
mirror
crying out on
and
the
seeing
porch
how
when
I
he's
was
doing
covered in bruises and my
Oh.
eyes were bloodshot.
And then he comes in here and lays by that door.
I want to get that howl on film. That was so wild today. He was it was long and lonely.
The majority of cases are you're trapped with somebody that you know that you trust.
Next week, we'll
It's
focus
crazy,
on the
man.
anti-trafficking
believe
efforts of law enforcement at both the local and federal level. If you or someone you know is caught in a
I spent the next
trafficking ring,
15, 20 minutes trying to
Center for Missing and
film it again. He never would do it again.
the law.
I knew I should stop filming anyway, but he never did. But I don't know if I'll hear that again. That was something.
So Francis meeting with members of the Foreign Press Association
She
today.
probably does it like that one was gone or something.
Free press. Amy Kellogg is live in Rome with more of the story. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Arcel. Well, he gathered hundreds of us together, thanked journalists for their work, which is often in dangerous places, and he said fundamentally the church respects the work that journalists do, even Arcel, when they, quote, stick their finger in the wound, and even if that wound is in the church community. Now, we gathered in the Clementine Hall, an imposing room in the Vatican covered with Renaissance frescoes. Both the president of the Foreign Press Association and the Pope played off the fact that the press headquarters here is on Via dell'Umiltà, which means humility in Italian, a quality the Pope said we all need to strive to possess.
In a time when many spread fake news, humility prevents you from selling spoiled food of misinformation and invites you to offer the good bread, truth.
He piled a fair bit of pressure on us, reminding us not to be lazy in verifying facts, not to use violent language, not to be a megaphone for the loudest voices, not to neglect reporting on the good in the world, and not to neglect those who are often forgotten. He says it's important not to let stories of the Rohingya and the Yazidis slip off the front page. And finally, Arcel, he took 45 minutes after he made his remarks to personally greet every single person in the room. He was on his feet for a long time, making small talk, making big talk. The bottom line is, the Pope is 82 years old. Most of us found that very impressive, and this was not his only engagement of the day.
Did you meet him? Did you meet him?
I sure did, and it was a great pleasure. He blessed us all, and it's a good way to end the week.
Absolutely. Amy Kellogg, thank you very much.
We have to be able to
A little bit more out of it.
and at least break even. And
We have to put it down high,
for
wasn't
the next 4 to 5 years, I don't see that happening until we have this trade war settled.
Oh, that's right, Davis, echoing the voice of the American farmer. word on the trade tensions between the U.S. and China, saying they're uprooting profits for farmers like him who grow soybeans and, in fact, other crops in the heartland. There's some worry that it could potentially last for years, but Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, well, he says a trade deal with Beijing will be signed soon.
The president's still hopeful that China will come to its senses and start treating us fairly and accept our production that's of great quality for China, and China needs it. They understand that there's economic duress throughout the farming community. That's why this $15 to $20 billion that he has committed will go to help farmers survive until we can get a trade deal. I'm hoping it won't be 4 or 5 years. I'm hoping it'll be this year.
Will this be resolved? With John Hilsenbach joins us as global economics editor for the Wall Street Journal and a Fox News contributor. John, how are you? It seems that the agricultural secretary, he is optimistic. Is he have rosy glasses, or do you think something can be done?
He might have rosy glasses. You know, the opinion depending on who you talk to. For instance, one of the lead negotiators, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, has really been pushing hard to finish the deal. Our trade ambassador, Lighthizer, is more skeptical of the Chinese intentions and really pushing for the president to be tough on China. And the Chinese themselves, since we upped our tariffs